This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Regen auf mein Kopf. Hinter der Deckel muss sie kleine Fahrt beim Top. Geht mir kein Sach mit, die Tropfen.
Hey everyone, welcome to Kill Me Now with Judy Gold, and I'm your host, Judy Gold. And this week we have part one of my interview with Caitlin Cook, who is brillante. She has an incredible show that she is now touring called The Writing on the Stall. And it is based on, you got it, bathroom graffiti from all over the world. She's brilliant. She's smart. She's a musician. She's a comedian. She's a writer. She's just everything. So I hope you enjoy part one of my interview with her this week. Also a member of the tribe. I am recording this on Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is so depressing. I can't even tell you. I've never felt like this before. On this day, it's just what's happening is so reminiscent of the past, what's going on here in the United States and around the world as far as Jews are concerned. And you can say whatever the fuck you want, and I am telling you as a Jew, it's different. It's different out there. And there is a lot of, there was always anti-Semitism, and now it's so in your face. And it's really sad. It's really sad that we have to fucking go through this every so many years, that we have to deal with this, that we think we're safe and we're never safe. And it's depressing. It is depressing, but we will survive because we've survived since the beginning of time, and nothing is going to stop us from being here. So you can protest, you can spread misinformation, you can act like no Jews care about innocent Gazans dying, which couldn't be further from the truth. And you can act like we all think alike and we all believe the same things. But here's the truth. There's nuance. People can hold more than one thought at the same time. And here's the honest to God truth. There would be a ceasefire if they would fucking release the hostages. If they would release the hostages, there would be a ceasefire. But they don't want a ceasefire, okay? And because of them, this continues on and on and on. And that is the truth. And it is fucking sad. So, Passover was kind of emotional and hard. And this day, the never forget, it's never forget and never again. But never again is happening right now. And it's just, yeah. It's hard. It's hard. And I want peace. We all want peace. I'm not a fan of Benjamin Netanyahu at all. And I want this to end, but release the fucking hostages and stop acting like spoiled ass. Like these people on the campus acting like they are, starving and they can't get food and they need. What are you talking about? Go leave your tent and go to the fucking mess hall or whatever it's called and get something to eat. No one is forcing you to stay there, and then you act like you're the victims. I want to know who's funding this. I just want to know. There's so much I want to know, and we'll eventually find out, but not before so much damage is done. So on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, I'm thinking about all those. There were 11 million people who died in the Holocaust. 6 million were Jews. And we're not even up to the amount of Jews that were in the world before the Holocaust. Families decimated, towns gone. We can't forget, and we can't let this happen again. And yeah, it's awful. And none of us want innocent people dying. None of us. But return the hostages. Return them. Okay, so that's my angry moment of the day. Yeah, it's just sad. It's a sad time. But I had a great interview and a great conversation with Caitlin Cook, who, I mean, how brilliant is it? I should have thought of something like that, you know? No, I'm kidding. She's brilliant. There's bathroom graffiti. It's brilliant what she does with it. So she's fascinating, and I love talking to other writers, performers, comedians, and those who are, making the world a better place with their art. And Caitlin Cook is one of those people. So I'm excited about my interview with her. I just also want to say that my Aunt Joan, my mother's sister, who I love, turned 95 on May 1st. 95 years old. She is sharp as a whip. We talk about politics. She knows everything that's going on. I am so lucky to have her. She has 3 daughters who are my cousins, but, my mother died and my father died in 1990, and she is the go-to whenever I have a question about anything, and she's just amazing. So happy birthday, Aunt Joan. 95. Okay? 95. We should all live that long and have all our brain cells like Aunt Joan has. So happy birthday to Aunt Joan. Next week, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, Ben will graduate from college. That I will be totally crying, but we'll talk about that next week. So listen, I hope this week is a good week with good news, but who the fuck knows? Oh, let me tell you where I'm performing. Judith Hannah Gold, I am performing. I will be in Provincetown. My residency in Provincetown begins June 23rd. I'm all through the summer at the Post Office Cabaret, which I love. It is the greatest. It's just great. I love. So I'm going to be there every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8:30. So that is very exciting. I am going to be performing there on June 13th because I will be there for the Provincetown Film Festival. I'm in a film that is coming out called Outstanding, about the history of LGBTQ comedy, directed by Paige Hurwitz, who is going to be on the podcast. And it's all about the history of out gay stand-ups. And I am going to Israel. I'm going to Israel on 26th, and I'll be performing all around Israel for the great organization Comedy for Kobe, which they run a camp for kids with PTSD, and there's a lot of new kids going to the camp. It's crazy busy. So I'm so happy to be traveling around Israel and performing for Comedy for Kobe, and all that information will be on my Insta and my website and everything. So I'll get that done. So, but right now I want you all to sit back, relax, and enjoy part 1 of my conversation with Caitlin Cook. Hey everyone, welcome to Kill Me Now with Judy Gold. I'm your host, Judy Gold, and today, I love talented people. And sometimes I'm a little jealous of them. No, I'm not. But, you know, our guest today is so talented, so original. I hate the word unique, but, you know, everything's been done in this business. And I think she found the thing that hasn't been done and will feed her for the rest of her life. Okay. Ladies, gentlemen, and they, thems, we have Caitlin Cook here today, who probably hates her name because of Caitlin Clark, but so fucking talented. She created the show, The Writing on the Stall, which is exactly what you think it is. But there's so much more to Caitlin Cook. And she is a Jew, but her name is Caitlin. What the fuck is that? Let's start with that, Caitlin.
I don't love my name. You're so right. My brother's name is Travis. My name is Caitlin. We have taken my dad's name, which is Cook. It's not a very Jewish name. My middle name is Lubo, which comes from Lubovsky.
Oh, I like that.
Which is more Jewish. Yeah, but I think
what's with the Travis and the Caitlin?
My dad is from Texas, and also my mother and her sisters were raised like Jewish atheists because my grandma and her family and my grandpa and his family escaped and decided they didn't believe in God, but they still wanted to raise their daughters with understanding of Jewish heritage.
Yes, I read that.
Food and songs.
So your grandparents, you were raised. You say that you were raised by your parents and your grandparents. That's the Jew bell, by the way. Yes. It's very annoying. And that you feel culturally Jewish. And yet sometimes you say you don't feel Jewish enough.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like, I never went to Hebrew school. I don't understand some of the history behind some of our holidays. I feel like there is a hierarchy of Judaism a lot of the time. And I feel like I am the most Jewish I've ever felt was when I posted a video I was doing a song a day during the pandemic. And I posted a video about how, white babies are the ugliest babies. I included my own ugly white baby picture in the song. It was just a silly song. I was doing one a day. And the most Jewish I ever felt was when a bunch of like neo-Nazis on Twitter went after me and sent me a lot of hate. And then I was like, well, fuck you. I am Jewish. But for the most part, I feel like I am very like, I grew up in LA. I live in New York. I'm very like city culturally Jewish. I love Shabbat when I can go to friends' houses. I love making a lot of Jewish food, but you're not going to find me like at a temple. And I, in those moments around Jews that went to Hebrew school, that were raised super religious, I feel like I am not Jewish enough.
But Caitlin, I talk about this in my act now because we're at a point again, unfortunately, where you can't deny your genetics and it's, and I also say, Hitler was never like, oh my God, you eat bacon? Oh, then you go home, So do you feel different since October 7th?
Yeah, I do. I feel, as I was saying with like the neo-Nazis going after me, that's when I feel the most Jewish, is when I feel all of the hate and anti-Semitism. But since October 7th, I also feel less likely to talk about it in certain spaces. I feel less safe to talk about it. I feel less likely to post about it on social media. I feel like a lot of people have really big opinions on it, and I don't feel as safe as I used to.
And does that scare you?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think it's a really weird shift in which, maybe it was just that I grew up in liberal cities, but I never felt any sort of weirdness or ostracism from being Jewish, except for maybe a couple times of like touring in the South where I was around people who'd never met a Jewish person before. But
it wasn't filled with hate. It wasn't filled with, acrimony. Did your grandparents you say you were raised by them as well as your parents. You've
Yeah.
said that before. Are they alive? Are your grandparents alive still? No.
No, my
That's
grandpa passed when I was 11, and my grandma passed when I was 21 or 20,
Wow.
around there.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
at least you
Mhm.
had her that long. That's great.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you did they give you any warning, or I mean, does any of this? I'm just curious.
Mhm.
You're the next generation of me, and
Mhm.
I was surrounded, by the Holocaust because it was 17 years before I was born, and all of my parents' friends who had accents from Eastern Europe were Holocaust survivors. So,
Mhm.
and you're raised with this in your home. Did they warn you? Did they? I mean, it's so
Yeah.
interesting that they said, listen, we're not going to deal with this sort of. We don't want to make this your full identity because,
Mhm.
and yet I find it interesting that you can't escape it.
Yeah. And I also don't think that their idea was to not make it my full identity. I think that they just saw the atrocities
Right.
and all of this trauma and were like, God doesn't exist, so we're not doing
Yes.
that part of Judaism.
Right.
And so I wonder what they would say. Like, I wish I knew my grandpa better, or had more time with him, because he was both of them were such cool people. My grandpa invented the wah pedal for
No
guitars.
way.
Yeah. And he wasn't even a musician. He just liked to take things apart and put them back together in weird ways. And he made this pedal, and people started using it with guitars, and it became this huge phenomenon.
Wow. What was his name?
And now Raymond Lubo.
Oh my God. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So he has such a cool history. And now, as a musician, I wish that I could talk to him and ask him a bunch of questions, because I still feel like I got to ask my mom even some more questions all the time. I'm asking her, like, wait, when did this happen? And how I
Right.
want like a timeline. I want the whole story. And then my grandma was also really fucking cool. She was a history professor, and she started a bunch of women and gender studies programs at local California colleges, and was a big atheist and really involved in politics. She took me to my first anti-Iraq war rally.
Wow.
She was just really, really well spoken and intellectual and
Cultured. Yeah.
really, cultured, and really inspired me. And I wish I could also have more conversations about what's happening now with her, because I think she would have some really interesting things to say.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I know.
One of my earliest political memories, other than her taking me to a bunch of rallies, was I remember her saying, communism is a good idea, but it will never work. And also, don't let anyone hear you saying that.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
She sounds like brilliant.
So,
Brilliant. Wait, so do you tell everyone about the wah pedal?
I don't, I do tell most musicians. It feels like it's part of my legacy, and also I don't use it a lot in my own music, and I would like to incorporate it more. I'm more of an acoustic guitarist, but I would like to incorporate it more. And I also feel like sometimes I don't tell people, because it gives them the sense that I have a ton of money from this legacy, when actually he didn't put this he didn't put a good patent on it. And so it's not like I come from a ton of money. So sometimes I feel weird about the connotations of telling people that, but I do really enjoy telling pretentious gearhead guys at Guitar Center and stuff that I know where I come from and what I'm talking about.
That's the best. Do you get a discount for the
I wish.
Yeah, I know.
I wish I got a discount, but I do get cool stories from a lot of different musicians and people.
I love that. I love that.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're the home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not-so-secret Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds and Skims use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/start selling, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/start selling to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/start selling.
I wrote this down. I was doing research on you. You've said that being Jewish, and then we'll get off the Jew thing, but I'm a big Jew. And I feel like, we have to Jew it up now because everyone's afraid to Jew it up. But
True.
that being Jewish, part of being Jewish is finding deep meaning. And
Yeah.
I loved that. I love that because we're taught to question everything. We're taught
Yeah.
to argue about everything, to find different ways of thinking about the same thing. And
Yeah.
your entire show is about finding deeper meaning. But yet, I feel I've watched snippets of your show and I'm so sorry I missed it because I want to see it so bad. But the fact that you see something. So for everyone listening, the writing on the stall is about graffiti in bathrooms all over the world.
Yeah.
Men's, women's, non-gender, every bathroom.
Yeah.
And and the way you do it is that you and music, which is, I was a music major. I love music. And I think music and comedy, I know you've talked about music and comedy. I've heard you speak about it. They're so similar. It's all about timing and pace and rhythm, and that you interpret these writings on the stall, and yet you allow the audience to interpret them for themselves as well. And I just love that. How the fuck did you think of this? Because it's brilliant.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of it. And also it doesn't feel like it's all mine. That's what I love about found art is like, yes, I created this show and it's a really personal and vulnerable and it's my story, but it's also a bunch of people's stories and it's interactive with the audience. And it just comes from like, I do think part of it is the lens that I found this is through being Jewish and being taught to not just let the things we're looking at skate over us, to think deeper about the things around us and to question them. And also, I studied art history in undergrad and grad school. And one of the first pieces of graffiti I saw, which is actually the first one in the show, I saw it in Chicago and it said, "Since writing on toilet walls is neither for critical acclaim nor financial reward, it is the purest form of art. Discuss." And I just loved that because at the time I was studying art history and I was really getting frustrated with how pretentious and bougie that world is and the world of high art. And I saw that and I was like, that's a beautiful idea that graffiti is so pure, especially bathroom graffiti, because it's not, people don't do it for money.
Right.
People don't do it for fame.
And
people don't do it even
vulnerable.
to get their name out
They're
there.
at their most vulnerable.
Exactly.
They're taking a shit. They're
Exactly.
peeing. They're naked.
Yeah.
But they're
crying. They're doing drugs.
Right.
Like they're doing. Yeah.
But it's private.
Yeah.
But it's also really private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really private, and it's like, and it's anonymous, and I think most of the people doing it don't even consider what they're doing art. They don't consider that they're creating something, and yet it's a little peek into that person's life and a little peek into like this human experience that we've been doing this since like the cave painting days. We've been scribbling something next to like clearly the shithole, and so it's just this beautiful art form that I think is so easily dismissed. And I just got really fascinated by it. And I have so many pictures now. I started photographing it. And then I've always made music and comedy, and I love a found art song. Like I have a couple songs actually, in which all the lyrics are things that my friend said when she was sleep talking. She sleep talks a lot. And like, I love taking things that don't seem like art, or that just seem silly, or that people don't pay attention to. And if you throw it into a comedic and musical context, suddenly people listen, suddenly people sit up, suddenly they notice. So I made the first song of the show, which starts with that piece of graffiti about art history. And I made that first song, and God, people just sat up when I started playing it. It got standing ovations. People's eyes just lit up. And I thought, I'm clicking into something here, because hasn't everyone seen something in a bathroom stall and thought, that's funny, or why did someone write that, or what's their story?
Right.
And so I then ended up like going through all of my archives and being like, you know what, I think I can write a whole musical out of this. And I started sorting all the pictures into categories.
That's what's so cool about
like,
it, that you mix and match. It's like, I can't imagine how much time that must take.
Yeah. And I'm actually like the general plan for the next eventual project is like, this is a solo show. It's just me up there. It's me in a toilet up on stage, because the show is set in a bathroom. But eventually I would like it to not just be me up there, and to incorporate other people's stories that they're writing on the stalls. And so the eventual plan is to take an even larger now archive of bathroom graffiti, because people DM me hundreds of pictures a day, and build out like an ensemble show of a bunch of people's interweaving stories from the world of bathroom graffiti.
That's amazing. So you grew up in LA.
Yes.
And you went to college in Ohio.
Yes, I did.
And you studied art history.
I studied art history and photography. In undergrad,
Wait, I have that down here. And then you went to, I mean, talk about snob. If my daughter went to Oxford, I mean, I would be telling my son plays basketball and I don't shut up about it. But were you freaking out that you got to go?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always had, before Oxford at least, I had some kind of complex about appearing dumb to people, or like wanting to have some kind of check mark by my name. Cause I grew up in LA.
It must be really hard.
It feels
in LA.
Yeah, it's a weird place to grow up. And it feels like especially for girls, you're taught that your value is your looks,
right.
And you're taught that really early on. And in LA, your friends are getting discovered in malls and becoming models and actresses. And like, I just think I knew pretty early on, I was like, that is not my value system. And that's not what I want to bring to the world. And certainly I'm not getting discovered in malls.
Also, you have this amazing grandmother who is so the complete opposite of that. What part of Los Angeles did you grow up in?
I grew up in, I think the real estate agents now call it like Beverly Grove.
Oh yeah, I know, but it's
right between the Grove and the Beverly Center. Yeah. And then my grandma had this beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills that they built, which is so lovely. That doesn't exist anymore. So sad.
How did they end up there?
But yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. They grew up in New York. Actually, their families obviously emigrated from Belarus and Poland. But when they were very little, they grew up my granddad was in the Bronx, and my grandma was in the Jewish tenements in the Lower East Side. And I believe that I gotta ask my mom, but I believe that in their like early 20s, they both just decided, I got to get out of here. I got to get away from my big families. I got to go west.
Right.
And so they both ended up in LA. It's so funny because LA is such a silly place, but they found a vibe with the city. And my grandpa was able to make it work as an inventor. My grandma was able to work her way up as a professor. And they lived there ever since. And like all three of their daughters never really left. And it became their home. Whereas, me and my brother my brother went up to the Bay, but like I was the one who was like,
I've got to get out.
I'm going to Oxford. Yeah. I'm going to Oxford. I'm going to New York.
Right.
I'm going to Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And your
Yeah.
father's from Texas?
Yeah, my dad grew up in Texas. And when he was in his early 20s, he also was like, I got to get out of here. It's too like Bible Belty and religious, and I'm going to go to LA. And he's now he's like a restaurant manager, but back then he was a chef, and so he made his way to LA. And
did he cook at home?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he taught me how to cook so much stuff, and is such a fun chef too. Where I learned when I was young how to like crack an egg open with one hand, and like how to make pancakes in the shape of the letters of our names. And yeah, he was great, and he met my mom at like a dinner theater place because she's a choreographer dancer, so she was doing dancing and waitressing, and he was the chef bartender.
Oh my God, I love that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a rom-com. Okay.
I know.
This week's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, you know I am a huge advocate for therapy. I talk therapy. I like physical therapy too, but I'm talking about talk therapy. I've been in therapy since I'm 18 years old. There is nothing better. Nothing better. And it is a stressful time. We just had an election. It's the holidays, and we're going to have to spend family time or not spend family time. It's a decision you might make in therapy, because therapy is really the best way, the only way to process your feelings, anxiety, depression, everything. I've been doing it for over 40 years. I know what I'm talking about. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, if you thought about it for years and just didn't do it, please give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It's suited to your schedule. You go to betterhelp.com/JudyGold. You fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch your therapist at any time for no additional charge. I've done that multiple times in my life, switch therapists. It works. It works. And I know a lot of people who have used BetterHelp, and they love it. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/JudyGold today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome. And so you're growing up in this environment that objectifies,
Oh yes.
and doesn't, and do they not? I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, and I know like being smart was very important.
Yeah.
Did they not value that sort of intelligent? The one reason I loved bringing up my kids here, my mother grew up here too, and she was, and I grew up in New Jersey, but she was always like, oh, it'd be so much easier to bring you up in New York. The thing about growing up here is that if you're weird, if you have some weird, there's someone weirder than you. There's a group you can join with other people who are weird like you. My son was like, I was bullied. I was always like, if you see any child being bullied, you go. And she's like, Mommy, no one cares. No one cares if you're tall or you're gay or And I was like, so were you like ashamed of that, or did you hide this or did you use it as a?
No,
I mean, I can't even imagine growing up around that. I'd fucking kill myself.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was also interesting because like my best friend and I met in preschool, and then we never went to the same school again. But she went to like the premier prep school. She went to Harvard Westlake. She ended up going to MIT. She went to Harvard Business School. So she was always very intelligent. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So she always made me feel very seen in pursuing being smart. But I went to like the public schools and the magnet schools, and I just felt like I just wanted to get out so early, and I felt like I was a a quiet smart. I wasn't like raising my hand in the front of class. I was like, if I can get really good grades, I can get the fuck out of here. So I kept my head down and I did my shit and I wrote songs quietly in my room and I developed debilitating stage fright when I was in high school and was like, I'll never.
I read that.
Yeah. I was like, I will never get on stage. That's not my life at all. And then, yeah, when I turned 18 and I applied to so many different colleges because I was like, get me out of here. I really didn't vibe with LA. And it's taken me years to like figure out how to go back there and visit family and feel like it's not hell on earth. And like, oh God, it's better now.
You know what? Oh, I love that you just said that. I felt like that going home too. And, it's gone. It's over. You know what I mean? That baggage is, lost at some fucking airport and you don't need to ever find it. Yeah. So, God, that shit stays with you. Still, I'm 61. I'm 61 and I hear the words Bigfoot or Sasquatch and I still get a stomachache. Because that's all I heard every day. And I would I didn't walk by a schoolyard till I was in my 30s because I was so afraid they would start, but it goes away. You're so great. Okay. So you're on the cusp of cell phones Do you feel like you'd be in a different situation had you had access to a smartphone when you were younger?
A little bit. I'm grateful for the time I grew up in that like I got to have the childhood of playing in the street till the street lights came on and then going home and then like cell phones started to become a thing in like the beginning of high school, but it was still just like basic texting. Right. And like, I remember like AOL, Messenger and stuff like that, AIM. And then it wasn't like Instagram and stuff. Facebook was in college. Instagram was right out of college. Right. Like, I think there was an interesting trajectory that I feel like I'm grateful that I had each one every step of the way where I was mature enough to handle it. Right. And yet at the same time, like I grew up with parents that really wanted me to like learn how to deal with boredom and be creative and not just be in front of a screen. Yes. Which I'm so grateful for. Like I was only allowed like 1 hour of TV or computer a day and it had to be an educational thing. And that continued until I was like in the middle of high school. I didn't have cable. I
love you.
We didn't play a lot of video games. Like I do love that. And yet I wish I had maybe, I don't know. It's still hard. I wish I had like a little more access when I was younger to maybe like getting more comfortable like filming my songs or like recording stuff and putting it out there. Like I think that there are some people from the early days of YouTube that like have these beautiful, successful, wonderful careers because they caught the thing at that moment.
No, it's no.
And yet at the same time, I'm doing the creative content thing now, and it's sometimes working, and it's sometimes a fucking burden, and you like having your livelihood be in the hands of just like these little internet fiends is like not great. So at this, like when I do look back on it, I'm like, I'm grateful that things happened at the time that I was the right age for it and that I had the childhood.
Yeah, you had that experience because I love that you said the thing about being bored. It's like kids do not know how to be bored. And that's how we created shit was that we were bored. Yeah. I'd go downstairs and play the piano or I'd play my clarinet or I'd go outside and, or I'd go to my room and make believe I was Barbara Streisand, like it was, sorry, but that is so important to be able to create and know what being bored is like and being comfortable with being bored.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom is such a creative person and such a like, oh, you want to do that? Or you don't know how to do that? Let's figure it out kind of person.
I love her.
That like she is great. And like, she taught me how to silk paint and do ceramics and she's just an incredibly like creative visual person and theatrical person. And so like when I would come up to her and I would say, hey, I'm bored. I remember this as a kid. She would be like, There's a closet full of board games in there if you're really bored. But there's also like, look around the house. Is there like a space that doesn't have art in it? Is there
Oh
like
my God,
something
I
you want to
love her.
create? Being bored was not a good
Right.
answer to
Right.
to life. And so even now I'm like, ugh, it's so hard. Right now I'm balancing like the show and a day job and all of the life things, and I'm struggling to find time to write songs, which is my favorite thing to do in the world. And it's what I did whenever I was bored. And like, yeah, things just fill up and we have screens and everything to fill our time, and it's good to be bored. You make stuff when you're bored.
I can't believe you still have to work during the day, but I did that. Until
I don't have to.
You're very
I did when I
responsible.
took the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a responsible
Yeah.
human being. Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of my conversation with Caitlin Cook. How brilliant is she? Part 2 is next week. It's even more brilliant. I can't even tell you. I love talking to her. Kill Me Now is produced by Laura Vogel and edited by Colin Schmaling. And we are going to be rebranding, and you're gonna hear the new name soon. Yay! We're doing a live taping of Kill Me Now on June 9th at the Comedy Cellar in Manhattan. It's actually at the Village Underground, and we are going to have the Good Liars on, and it's going to be great. It is at 3 p.m. at the Village Underground on June 9th. Get your tickets. I'll have all that info on my website and on Instagram and all that shit. So that's happening. Yeah, that's it. I wish everyone an incredible rest of the week. I'm thinking positive, even though that is against everything in my body, but I'm trying to. And I just want to thank you all for being loving supporters of the podcast. I was in Rochester this past weekend. What great crowds. I had so much fun. Thank you to Comedy at the Carlson. The people there were just great. The club is great, and it's always nice to work for nice people. You know what I'm saying, baby? So thank you all for listening until the very end. And I love you all. And as we always say, so long. Ga, 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 ga.
This sale season, Ritual is urging you to think about what's essential. Your daily health? Pretty essential. Making sure your products are heavy metal tested, clean label project certified, and sourced through a traceable supply chain? Also essential. So this Black Friday, skip the micro trends and put your savings where they matter. Your health. With 40% off daily essentials like stress relief and Symbiotic Plus for gut support. Head to ritual.com/podcast and shop responsibly.